Hey everyone, welcome to the Naked Conversations podcast. I'm your host, Sage Hobbs, author and creator of Naked Communication, and I'm so psyched you're here. This show is all about taking charge of your life in new and inspired ways to create a life you deeply love. It's about being more you in all areas of your life, more courageous, more free, more alive, more naked. I'll be sharing stories and advice from amazing people around the world who are up to incredible things on how they are successfully breaking free from fear and old patterns in order to create incredible relationships and impactful lives so that you can do the same. This is the place to be inspired to live a courageous and naked life. Let's do this. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Naked Conversations podcast. I'm your host, Sage B. Hobbs. I'm so excited that you're here with me. As always, thank you for taking the time to listen. So, I've got a big one for today. And I have so much to say on this that it might actually have to be 2 shows because I don't like to make these ones too long for your listening ears. But I have just returned from a very profound and incredible experience, and I really want to share with you my lessons from these brilliant women that I had the opportunity to learn from this week. So before I do that, I just want to say that if you are interested in joining my upcoming group program or getting more premium intensive individual work with me, feel free to email me at sage@sagebhobbs.com, sage@sagebhobbs.com. I have a few slots open for my more intimate one-on-one, and the group program will be starting soon based on at the time of this recording. And that's really an opportunity to work more on your relationships, how you show up in them, how you speak up, use your voice, set boundaries, form connections, deepen intimacy, and really fully express who you are in the world. That is what my coaching is about. So if you're interested in feeling more alive, if you're interested in feeling more love and connection, let me know. So today we're going to be talking about leadership, and particularly women's leadership. I just spent 4 days both participating and contributing to a weekend called Emerging Women Live. And I will put the link to all of the things I mention in the show notes, which is over at sagebhobbs.com/podcast, because there's going to be a lot of things for you to reference later, amazing things. So I spent the weekend down in Denver at Emerging Women with about 500 other women from around the world. There were more than 10 countries represented. And there were speakers and sponsors and workshops and breakout sessions. And I got to speak on the sister stage and share some of my work around how to fully show up being more naked, move from humiliation to humility, find our voice no matter when it's challenging or scary or hard. And it definitely will be at times those things. And I also got to really listen and hear and learn from some of the world's most inspirational, and I really mean this, some of the world's most inspirational female leaders who are just doing incredible things in their businesses, in starting movements, in their families, in their communities, to bring upon like a global shift in well-being and eradicating poverty, education for girls, you name it, lots of things, right? So I want to talk to you today about what I really saw this weekend around leadership and particularly women's leadership. What I really got clear on, many things, but I'm going to go with 2 today, is 1, you all can lead. We all can lead. And not only can we, but we must. As women, it's just more critical than ever that we find a way to show up and share our voices more fully in the world, okay? So before you're like, oh gosh, Sage, like that's not me. I'm like totally just keeping my head above water, or I'm spread too thin as it is, or who is she talking to? I'm not a leader. I'm quiet, or I'm a stay-at-home mom right now, and I left my career a long time ago, or I'm totally spread too thin because I have a full career and I have kids, or I don't know what the hell I'm doing with my life. Like, how can you tell me I must lead? I just want to invite you to listen to this conversation from a place of curiosity and from a place of considering that you too have leadership qualities within you. And I honestly believe that with like all of my heart. First of all, you're listening to this show. If you're listening to Naked Conversations, you are curious about growth, about women who are courageous, about how you can hear your story in their stories. You are here, you're listening, you've already taken a step into leadership, okay? So just before you dismiss anything, just consider as you listen where you can find yourself in these stories, or where you can stretch yourself just one step further into your own voice, your own expression, your own leadership. Okay. So the second thing that I'm going to touch on is this idea that women lead differently. And there's lots of research on this, I'm sure. And there's lots of ways that we lead differently with different competencies first and all of that. But what really came for me this weekend that as just a nugget or a morsel that I want to share is that I really feel like women lead in relationship. They lead in community. That when we are supporting each other, we're catapulting each other forward in a more profound way. There's an old proverb, it was mentioned this weekend. I believe it's African proverb, but I'm not sure. But it's this idea that if you want to go fast, you go alone. If you want to go far, you go together. And I think that women get that in a deep, deep way, that we're inherently people who want to be in relationship and in community, right? So this weekend at Emerging Women, that's how it all started. And I'm going to tell you a few stories. I'm going to start though with the context of arriving. And like I said, I was both a participant and a contributor to the conference. And so I was wearing a few hats. And we get there and we immediately are placed into what Chantal, who is the CEO and founder of Emerging Women, calls power circles. You can participate in these all over the country, maybe all over the world actually. But she puts us in power circles, which are groups of 10 women. I didn't know any of them. And immediately the conversation was about what do we want to create for ourselves in our lives this weekend, and how can we radically support each other in making that happen? That was awesome. Radically support each other in making that happen. And it was so interesting to watch how that unfolded as a theme throughout the weekend. There were, questions and opportunities and small conversations, side conversations, group conversations to ask one another, okay, well, how can I support you in that? How can I radically support you in that? And as my talk drew closer on Saturday afternoon, I was just so moved and inspired by these women that I've been meeting, how they were so pumped to come and see me speak and support me in shining up there, support me in really owning this role that I was stepping into. And it was an honor to be on the stage at this event. So I was yet again reminded that we as women are called to speak up now more than ever with a bigger voice. And that when we do that in relationship with each other, in communal support, there is an acceleration of our leadership and an acceleration of the power in which we show up. So women, you can lead and we must lead, and we can do it together. You don't have to do it alone. So a few things happened this weekend. Many things happened this weekend, actually. But after the power circles and we get into the listening zone of hearing from just the most extraordinary women ever, as far as I can tell, and immediately I have some comparisonitis going on. And I know we all do this, right? We all get caught up in, oh my gosh, these women are amazing. What else can I contribute? And I really kept that in check so I could be present and learn from the incredible women who were taking the stage. But there were a few stories that stood out for me personally that I want to share with you. So the event ended. The final keynote, after maybe 20 keynotes, was a woman named Dr. Tararai Trent. And she's actually known to be Oprah's favorite guest of all time, which is wild because Oprah had interviewed over 30,000 people. And I was so deeply touched and moved by Dr. Trent's incredible wisdom and humor and humanity. And her story is extraordinary. You can read about her at her website. You can also read her new book, which I just purchased and had her sign, called The Awakened Woman. The very, very short version is that she was born in Zimbabwe, before it was Zimbabwe, and she was born into a rural village where the expectation was that she would be married before she was 15, and by the time she was 18, she had 4 children. And the opportunity for her to get an education was non-existent, really, until it wasn't non-existent anymore, until she had the occasion to meet a woman who planted a seed or fanned her dream a little bit, and she got really clear that she wanted to go to the United States and get not only a college degree, but all the way through to her PhD. And she took her dreams, these dreams that she had, and she buried them in the soil of her village, wrapped in a piece of tin. Because in her rituals or customs, you bury things that you want to see grow, and they also keep you connected to your home and where you're from. So they bury a small piece of the umbilical cord in the mother's dress when a baby is born, so the child knows their home and that child can grow and flourish. And this is what she did with her dreams. And she stood on this stage many decades later, having worked her butt off. And again, her stories online and also in her book. And also, I'm sure you can find it through Oprah, because Oprah Winfrey is a huge sponsor of her work, of Tararai Trent's work. And she spoke on the stage, and one thing she said really landed for me, which is that the coming together of all women is the healing of this world. I'm going to say that again. The coming together of all women is the healing of this world. And as this weekend unfolded, that is what I saw. That is what I really saw, and what I'm, inviting you to participate in through listening to Naked Conversations with me today, just to participate in the fact that you're a part of that too. You're a part of that too. That it's not just these big people who have somehow arrived or made it or are shiny and bright and have a bigger voice to share, that each of us is a woman having a woman's experience, and each of us has a voice or something to contribute. So this kept coming back to me again and again. So my talk is approaching on Saturday afternoon. I'm practicing it. I'm quote unquote perfecting it. I'm going to leverage this opportunity. I'm so honored to be on this stage, all of these things, right? And then I arrive on Saturday morning at the event, and honestly, I'm running a little bit late, which is very unlike me. But I really do believe in sort of the divine or the universe, source, God, whatever you want to call it, like sometimes just giving you some breadcrumbs that you got to follow. That's as Nikki Elledge Brown talks about divine breadcrumbs. And so I got some breadcrumbs this weekend. And so I'm running late on Saturday morning because the night before I had gotten a migraine, which I rarely get. It was very interesting that this would happen in the middle of all of this like profound emotional experience. And so I'm a little late, and my friends and I show up at the hotel, and there's a fire alarm going off at this fancy hotel in downtown Denver, a fire alarm. And so we go in, and the lights are flashing, and the sound is super loud. And I'm like, there's no way I can stay in there, right? I just had a migraine last night. So I go back outside, and outside is standing this woman named Esther Perel. And I'm going to link to her work and her books in the show notes as well over at sagebhobbs.com/podcast, because Esther Perel is amazing. And she's really a leading expert on relationships, marriage, partnership, infidelity. Her books are Mating in Captivity and the State of Affairs, and she dives deeply into, long-term partnership and romantic relationships and infidelity. So she's standing outside, and I had heard her speak the day before, and she had blown my mind wide open. And she's really devoted decades of her life to the human experience and connection. And there she is outside during the fire drill, because I was late, right? Not fire drill, fire alarm. So I just, being myself, of course, just wanted to acknowledge her and appreciate her for her work and what she had already taught me the day before. And so we get into a conversation, and eventually through that conversation, while we're waiting for the alarms to be turned off, she learns that I'm going to be speaking on the sister stage that afternoon. And she asks what my talk is about, and I'm telling her, and I'm saying it's a short talk, TED style, 10 minutes. And I'm nervous about giving a 10-minute talk. I've spoken many times, but for longer length, and that 10 minutes feels really fast. And she's like, oh my gosh, 10 minutes is so hard. And I'm pulling my wheelie bag, 2 other bags over my shoulder. I'm checking into the hotel. And she looks at me and says, well, give me your talk. Let's do it. Give me your talk right now. I'm blown away. I'm partially freaking out because this is a leader that I admire, and I'm somebody that really is shining so brightly in the world. And I'm like, oh my gosh, my immediate thought is, I'm not ready. What? But I don't give in to that, right? Because leadership happens in small moments too, in opportunities that present themselves and you choose to show up. That's courage. That's nakedness. That's really living a bold life, right? So of course, when Esther Perel asks you to practice your talk, you listen. And I put my stuff down, and I walk and talk with her and give her my presentation. She gave me unbelievable feedback, and really she gave me a bigger gift than the feedback itself, which was the reminder of we are women in a shared experience out to make a difference in the world and shine our own leadership in some way. And she gave me generously and graciously her mentorship in that moment. And she didn't have to do that. She did not have to do that. She chose to gift me that. And for that, I'm forever grateful. And I want you to consider what opportunities might present themselves to you, and do you take advantage of them? That's question number 1. 2, there's always somebody else who can learn from you. This is a continuum. Leadership is a continuum, and we're all at different places. We all come with different backgrounds, different stories, different ways in which we can lead. Some of us might be loud, some of us might be quieter leaders. It doesn't matter so much as you listening to the voice that you have and honoring sharing it, right? So that was another reminder for me, like, oh my gosh, we are human beings together walking this path, and we women can really support each other. And when we do, exponential growth and leadership can happen. She helped me immensely. My talk was far better because of her wisdom. So in this world of the continuum, I then go up to the front desk to check into the hotel, and I'm kind of flustered. Like, I just had a little bit of a fangirl moment, right? I'm like, oh my gosh, this incredible woman just worked with me. What happened? And I can't find my phone. And it's like, I'm sort of talking to these lovely young man who's checking me in, right? And I'm telling him what just happened. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so wild. I'm giving this talk this afternoon, and I just got the opportunity to learn from somebody I really look up to, and so on and so forth. And he's like, you're giving a talk this afternoon? Oh my gosh, that's amazing. What is it about? And so just because I opened a dialogue with him, immediately right there, we're in relationship. So I talk about this a lot in my book. If you haven't read it, Naked Communication, it's on Amazon or on my website. But just this idea of there's always an opportunity for connection where you don't even expect it. So this is a 20-year-old guy checking me into my hotel room, and we have this connection. And so anyways, blah, blah, blah. We have this lovely talk, not blah, 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 but time goes on. I eventually get to check into my room. It wasn't ready yet. And when I go into my room, there's a note under my door from this young man who just says, Miss Hobbs, you're going to do great on your presentation. Good luck. And my heart just like melted, right? Like, here's this young man who in this small, short interaction felt compelled to encourage me, right? And to support me, and was excited for the connection we had made. At the end of the entire weekend, I'm checking out of the hotel, and I hadn't seen him again in the 36 hours or whatever between when I checked in and when it was time to go. And I said, oh my gosh, thank you so much for your note. That really made the biggest difference to me. And my talk went great. It was really amazing. People loved it. Thanks for your support. And he said, well, this might be weird, but like, I'd really love to read your book or know more about it. And he hands me like a handwritten piece of paper with his email address on it. And I look at him and I say, you know what? This is so weird, but I actually have just one copy of my book in my bag. And I actually don't even know why I had a copy of my book in my purse. I had brought a few to the conference. They'd been in my suitcase for whatever reason. I had one in my actual bag. And I pull it out and I get a pen and I'm signing it for him. He says, I really actually want to write a book myself. And I say, oh, what are your ideas? He's telling me, and I give him some feedback and some encouragement. And I hand him this book. He's like, well, do I owe you anything for it? And I said, are you kidding me? No way. Like, this is my gift to you. Thank you for your support. And, I really wish you the best. I hope you write your book. He is so grateful. And in that moment, it was like, boom, like this is a continuum where I'm looking up to Esther Perel. She's graciously providing me her leadership and her guidance and her wisdom. And then here's somebody 20 years younger than me looking to me for encouragement, guidance, wisdom, and leadership, right? And it's like we're all on a different part of the continuum, but we all have something to offer. You have something to offer. You have something to offer. And I really believe that women in particular can lead in the context of this relationship of these human connections, right? Neither of these beautiful moments would have happened without the connection first. So the weekend goes on. There's more and more of these lovely moments, more and more inspiration from people on the stage. One of which was that a woman named Lynn Twist spoke. And Lynn Twist has raised over $2 billion to end hunger on the planet, to end worldwide hunger. She's an incredible fundraiser. She helped build and grow an organization called the Hunger Project. And again, I'll put this in the show notes. When I was a kid, the Hunger Project was a really important organization to my parents. And it was my first exposure into philanthropy, really, and contribution and fundraising. And I guess when I was 9 years old, I actually don't really remember this, but this is one of my mom's favorite stories. They took me to my first fundraising event for the Hunger Project, and I was so excited and inspired that I gathered up my money of about $1.40 and I brought it to the front of the room to make a contribution when contributions were asked for. And so fast forward some 31 years, I'm now 40, and I'm in this room at Emerging Women Live, and Lynn Twist is one of the speakers. And she broke my heart wide open again. Heart wide open. And she spoke of being a young woman many years ago with 3 young kids, and that her life looked really beautiful from the outside. Her husband's career was going well. And she herself was not feeling fulfilled. It was like the masks that we wear, this whole thing that I talk about like being naked, showing up, peeling back the layers. That's what she was talking about, right? That she had these 3 kids and it seemed all happy and good, but some part of her wasn't connected to who she really was in a bigger way. And eventually she got really clear on the possibility that she could have a part in making a difference in the world, that she could help to end world hunger. And now she's moved on to working with an alliance. I don't know it exactly. I have to look it up for you. An alliance that helps with Indigenous people and reforestation. And she continues decades later to be true to a commitment of her own ability to be of service and make a difference in the world. And afterwards, total fangirl moment. I'm not going to lie, you guys. I got an opportunity to have her book signed, and I was like sobbing because she had broken me open again to my mission and our purpose in the world, right? To reconnecting with what is my true reason, what is the true why that I'm doing Naked Conversations, that I have my book, that I work with my clients, and, how can I show up in a bigger way to really be of service for women and girls around the planet having a voice and feeling alive and feeling like they have agency, right? She broke me open. And so I'm there and I'm sobbing. You only have like 30 seconds to get your book signed. And I'm like, I ugly cry sobbing. And I'm just pouring the love on her about how she has made a difference in my life for over 30 years. And that her work has touched so many people she'll never even know. Like I'm one of them. And it was such a beautiful moment to be able to A, give her that appreciation and let her know the difference her life has made, and B, to feel like bathed in the possibility of leadership again as a woman on this planet, right? So you don't dismiss this. Don't go into that space of like, I don't know how to end world hunger. She didn't either. She didn't either. She was called to do something and she followed. She listened, right? We all can do that in some way, whether your leadership starts in your family or it starts in your community, or maybe it does start in your place of work, in your corporation or company, or maybe you're an entrepreneur. There is a way for you to step into that use of your voice in a bigger way. So the last thing that I really want to leave you with, and of course there's a million more, but in this thread of we as women can lead, must lead, and can lead in relationship, in partnership, in collaboration, I was really struck by the fact that leadership can come in lots of forms, shapes, sizes, backgrounds, colors, right? So Dr. Trent was from Zimbabwe. And then we heard from a beautiful young woman who was from Pakistan originally, who she's a total badass. I mean, badass. And I will link to her as well. She's co-founded the Malala Fund and is now doing other work in terms of supporting socially conscious and well-intended businesses. And we heard from her in Pakistan. We heard from a woman who live streaming from Pakistan, who is doing girls' education in Pakistan despite death threats, supported by an organization called World Pulse, right? There were so many kinds of leaders in this space. And it was striking to me because on the very final day, both Dr. Trent spoke and an amazing woman named Colleen Sedman-Yee spoke. And their stories were so different, but neither was more or less powerful than the other. And Colleen and I had met off to the side quietly before she spoke or I spoke, in this kind of like just raw woman-to-woman experience that touched my heart so deeply and reminded me again of what I want you to hear, which is all of us have fears, all of us have doubts, all of us have different backgrounds, different wisdom, different ways in which we will lead, but we are women and we can support each other in that. so she and I were having this moment of like, oh my gosh, we're both scheduled to talk, but everybody has already said everything so beautifully and so powerfully and so eloquently. Like, what is left for us to say? And I didn't know at the time who she was. I knew her name was Colleen, and she was lovely, and her story was breathtaking and inspiring. And we had spent time together kind of talking through our stories and encouraging each other. And then she took the stage and she blew everyone away. And she was tall and blonde and beautiful. And she had suffered and she had risen above. And she's shining her light hugely in the world right now. She's a world-renowned yoga teacher, and she travels all over, really giving the gift of mindfulness and connection to ourselves. And deeper than that, this idea that perfectionism can kill you. And if we stay trapped in our idea of trying to get it all right and be perfect, it can kill you. And it can certainly suppress your voice and your leadership. So her side by side with Dr. Trent, different stories, different opportunities, different backgrounds, different races, different everything in lots of ways, but still woman lead. Woman lead with a story to tell. So I didn't even talk to you about how I walked on fire. I'll have to save that for another story. But what I want you to take away from this, take away whatever you want, actually. But I want you to know that what my main points really are here are that we as women, you included, can lead and must lead, and we can do it together. And it doesn't matter our background. It doesn't matter our appearance. There's something you have to say. There's some way in which you can contribute. And I want to invite you just to look at that in your life. I want to invite you to consider how you can show up more as a leader in your own little or big world, starting wherever you're at, remembering the continuum, knowing that you have something to offer. And if you're not sure, or you're totally sure and you're like, but how? Really, come find us in the Facebook community. Ask in there, sagebhabs.com/Facebook, or email me. Let's see if I can support you. Let's see if we're a fit to work together. Let's see if, we can get your voice to shine more fully in the world, because gosh, do we need it. And I know you have something to share. And I know that we as women can support each other in having that come forward in a more effective, resonant, vocal, expressed way. So thank you so much for listening. If you love Naked Conversations, or you love this show in particular, please share it. Please share it with your friends and with your community and with your family. And let's kind of collectively support each other in being inspired and inspiring others. It is my deepest honor to have these conversations with you. I love hearing what you think of them, really, so that I'm not just talking to myself into my microphone. Please let me know over in the Facebook group or send me an email. Much love to you. Lead on, women. Thank you so much for listening to Naked Conversations. Yay! It really means the world to me every time you show up. And if you want to know more about how to work with me personally and my coaching, you can check that out over at sagebhabs.com. You can also get some great free resources over there about how to make powerful requests, and many blog posts full of resources for living a naked life, as well as grab a copy of my book, Naked Communication, Courageously Create the Relationships You Really Want. And lastly, keep the conversation going with us over in the Facebook community, sagebhabs.com/Facebook, where we can keep talking about these super important and powerful topics of living a life fully expressed. Thanks again. See you next time.